My name is Emily Draper, and I am the writer and director of Sorority Court. So I started writing Sorority Court maybe about 2 years ago, and I knew that I wanted to write it because I was in a sorority, and there are a lot of weird things about that. But they weren't weird in the ways that I had seen them ever depicted on TV or in movies. So I wanted to make a story that felt authentically true to the women I knew when I was in a sorority, but I also wanted to give it this like heightened, culty, dark academia visual feeling. When I was in a sorority at a small college in Virginia, there were a lot of bizarre things about it. I won't deny that for even a second. But I also met so many women who I thought were so deeply cool in ways that really surprised me and I didn't expect. I definitely came in with this idea of the type of woman I would meet there. And so I wanted to create a story with characters who were like the women I met. So complex, dynamic, challenging, different, I guess. And that's a big part of what I'm trying to do with Sorority Court. I think something funny that happens when I was writing these characters is I was so afraid that they would come across as a negative stereotype in one way or another that it like creates like this weird box unto itself. But then I would just think back to actual people I knew, and I sort of like, if the people existed, then it's okay to write about them. So I do want to talk about sort of the unspoken weirdnesses of being in a sorority. So yes, the people I met were incredible, the friendships I made were amazing, but there were these weird moments, the unspoken thing of how are we all affording this? What are people's political opinions, which is sort of a forbidden topic. I will just talk about Bama Rush, and I would say I was counseled the same way the girls are on not to talk about the 4Bs, I think, which at the time when I was in them were bucks, money, I think religion, Barack Obama was one of them, and the last one was boys. Which is funny sometimes because once those topics are off the table, you find yourself having conversations during Rush, like what kind of potato would you be? And I kind of wanted to indirectly confront some of that weirdness as well, like the unspoken things that are simmering underneath the friendships and the great parts of it all. So my producers are Mia Rose Kavinsky and Lauren Lumsden. We're working with Fletcher Wolf, who's our DP, and then we'll be announcing the cast in the next coming months as we continue crowdfunding. I won the production micro grant, which I'll be using for sound on set. So my background is in commercial filmmaking, and almost all of the commercials I do are VO driven. And Sorority Court is a courtroom drama, so dialogue is everything. It's pretty much the entire story. So we just wanted to make sure that every line sounded great on set, and that's what we'll be using the grant for. How did I find out about Pano? I think when I was working on my last film, which was a tiny micro short that I collaborated with my grandma on, I was just looking for like grants or different awards, especially like local New York-based awards for women. And I kind of stumbled upon the micro grant program, and I was kind of like, oh wow, this is really cool. And once I started following Pano and I saw how much support the microgrant winners were given by Pano, I was kind of like, this is something I would like to be involved in. So this was my first time applying. This was the first cycle where I had something to apply for. So yeah, I'm just really thrilled that I was selected for this. So I started getting into filmmaking through advertising. That's where I started my career as a copywriter. But at the same time, while I was doing advertising in New York, I was doing all kinds of comedy in the city. Most of the comedy I did was sort of bad, but it was really fun nonetheless. I did improv, I did stand-up, did a lot of sketch, and I was in a lot of sketch writers' rooms. That was probably my least bad comedy. And I was surrounded with a lot of really talented writers and actors, some of whom are going to be cast members in this short. But once the pandemic happened, there was no more live comedy. So I kind of pivoted to filmmaking in my personal life and in my professional life. Bizarrely and luckily, I was hired at a production company that let me start directing right before the pandemic. So I kind of learned to direct on commercial sets while I was doing these new films in my creative life. If you're interested in this story, you can support us on Seed and Spark. So you can simply just follow us for free, or also follow us on Instagram at Sorority Court Film.